Hey everyone, welcome back. So in addition to fixed arrays, Java also has dynamic arrays. And one of those classes is actually called the array list. So in order to use it, we're going to have to use that import statement, import from the java.util library array list. Now let me get rid of some of this code that we did before. But I'll leave this one line. So just to compare it. So in order to create a new array list, you're going to do similar syntax here. We got to have the type. You're going to declare the type, which is array list. And again, you have to say, declare very strictly what it's going to hold, right? So if we were to do the same thing here, we would put it between angle brackets. And instead, I'll just call it my list for a new variable. You do need that new keyword. And then you have to do this entire thing over again. It's just saying you're going to create a new array list instance, and you actually have to put parentheses at the end. Now, this is because it's calling a function in order to create an instance of an array list. You'll get way more into that once you get into object-oriented programming, but for now, just make sure that you include those parentheses. Okay, so now that we've initialized it, let's see what you expect to print out when we try to print it. So I printed out my list. Any guesses while I'm trying to compile and run? So it doesn't even compile. It says unexpected error. Array list int reference. Required reference found int. So when they say reference, it means an object reference. So array lists, unlike normal arrays, cannot hold primitive types. So wrapper classes or object types. So wrapper classes just means it's an object version of that primitive type. So instead of int, we're going to have integer. Now let's see what happens. Nice. So we got two empty brackets, which is a little bit better than that unhelpful address string that we got with a normal array. So let's get rid of this guy. He's not as useful for us. So you'll notice that it actually did create an empty array, which means that it is expandable and retractable, right? It starts out as an empty array with 0 spots, but you can add to it. So let's do that. I'll add the number 10 because that's an integer. And then I'll add the number 11, also an integer. Great. And now let's print it out again. Bring my terminal up just a little bit. Save it. And then we gotta compile, run. And now we have 10 and 11 in there. Now, one thing that's a little different is that array lists do not use bracket notation. So in order to get a list item out and set a list item, you're going to use what's called getters and setters. All right, so let's just say that I wanted to take that 10 out of the array. Right now it's just 10, 11, and set it to some variable. So first of all, I need to declare the type. And again, it's an array of capital integers, the wrapper class integer. So integer, and I'll just call it num. And then my list. Normally you would think it would be like this, but we're actually going to use .get. And then we pass in that 0 there. So that's how you get the element at index 0 out of my list. And I will just print that. System.out.println num. And there we have it, 10. So that's how you get an item out. And then in order to set something in the list, let's say we wanted to set index 0 to the number 9. We would use something similar, but of course we don't need to set a variable. So what we're going to do is instead of get, set, we'll pass in the index of the item we want to set the value for. And then the next thing we'll do is pass in the value we want to set it to. So there's two things that you need to pass in there. The index and then what you want to set it to. And my list should change to 9 and 11. Compile, run. Nice. Okay, so there are also a lot of other methods that belong to the ArrayList class. But for now, I'm just going to go over one more important thing, which is that ArrayLists can hold lots of different types. So this is how the syntax goes. ArrayList. And then instead of putting a specific type for that generic, we're just going to have object. And then I'll say, I don't know, things. Array list of objects. And make sure you put those parentheses. And now I can add whatever I want to that is an object to that list. So I'll do things.add 10, which is an integer, and it will default to that capital integer type. And I can add, let's say, the string hello. I can also add even another list of, I don't know, integers, for instance. Oops, I don't need that S, that class is integer. And one more for good measure, things.add, let's try a double. Awesome. So now when I print it out, things, let's see what happens. I'm forgetting in the new keyword. Very important. Don't forget that new keyword. Hopefully there's no other errors, but we'll see. All right. Cool. Have fun with these arrays. The next assignment will be a little bit more challenging than the past ones, so good luck.